All right, let's jump right in. If you're a tech leader, a CTO, a VP of engineering, and you're constantly wrestling with how to grow your team without breaking the bank or your timeline, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're unpacking a really powerful strategic playbook, setting up your own captive nearshore development center.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll hit the core scaling problem that I'm sure you all know too well. Then we'll look at why nearshoring is such a smart solution. We'll pinpoint the exact moment, the tipping point, when it makes financial sense. After that, we'll walk through the actual setup playbook. And finally, we'll do a reality check on the costs, the risks, and a very cool alternative you might not have considered.
Okay, so let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. This is the core challenge that frankly keeps a lot of engineering leaders up at night.
Does this feel familiar? You've got this aggressive product roadmap, you've made promises to the business, but hiring the engineers you need locally is just brutal. It's slow, it's ridiculously expensive, and the competition is just insane. It puts your most important projects in jeopardy.
And this really lays out the classic dilemma, right? On one hand, you try to hire onshore, and you're just fighting an uphill battle against talent shortages and skyrocketing salaries. So you think, okay, let's look offshore. But then, bam, you trade one set of problems for another. You've got huge time zone gaps that absolutely kill agile collaboration, plus communication and cultural hurdles that make true team integration a real struggle.
So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it's this exact tension that makes a third option so incredibly strategic. Let's talk about finding that sweet spot, the nearshore model.
This is where it all clicks. You get the best of both worlds. First, the geographic proximity means your teams are actually working at the same time. That seamless, real-time collaboration, it's a total game changer. Then, you get major cost savings. We're talking 20 to 40% lower labor costs, and you get this without the huge cultural and communication gaps. Oh, and the fact that you can just hop on a short flight for critical meetings, that's a massive, massive operational win.
And for companies in the US, Mexico is just a perfect example of this in action. Now, the really crucial piece of this puzzle is the USMCA. That's the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Why does this matter so much? Because it provides a stable legal framework, which means rock-solid intellectual property protection. For any tech company, that is absolutely non-negotiable.
And the talent? It is definitely there. We are talking about a massive pool of 800,000 IT professionals, and it's not stagnant. You have tens of thousands of new STEM grads pouring into the workforce every single year. So this isn't some small, niche talent market. It's a deep, established, and constantly growing tech ecosystem.
Okay, so the strategy makes sense, but when does the math make sense? This is the critical go/no-go decision. At what point should you stop outsourcing and start seriously thinking about building your own thing?
Well, the data points to a very clear tipping point, right around 40 to 50 engineers. This is the magic number. It's the scale at which the long-term economics of owning your own operations start to look way, way better than continuing to pay a vendor. And this table shows you exactly why. When you outsource, you're paying that constant vendor markup. Think of it as a 20 to 40% tax on every single engineer every single year. Once your team gets to that 40 or 50-person mark, the total amount you're spending on those markups quickly starts to dwarf the one-time cost it would take to just set up your own center. Your long-term operating costs are just fundamentally lower.
So, let's say the numbers are working for you. You've hit that tipping point. What's the actual game plan? How do you make this a reality? Let's walk through the playbook.
You can really break this whole complex process down into 6 core, manageable stages. You start high level, assessing if it's feasible, and defining your goals. Then you get into the tactical stuff, picking a city, wading through the legal setup, actually finding and hiring your team, and then, finally, getting the whole operation up and running.
And let's be real for a second. This is the part that can be a real beast. Just look at this list. This isn't just filling out a form. It's navigating an entirely different country's corporate, tax, and labor laws. As a tech leader, the last thing you want is your focus being pulled away from your product and your team to deal with this stuff. You absolutely need local experts to get this right.
Okay, a big decision like this demands a clear-eyed look at the whole picture. So let's get into the reality check. Let's talk about the real costs, the potential hurdles, and a pretty compelling alternative path.
So first, let's talk numbers. The upfront capital you'll need is significant. You really need to be budgeting for an initial investment somewhere in the ballpark of $200,000 to $800,000. That's a wide range, but it covers everything: Legal fees, recruiters, office space, IT infrastructure, the whole shebang.
And this chart kind of shows you where that money goes. No big surprises here, right? The biggest chunks are the physical stuff, setting up your office and getting all the technology in place. But recruitment and legal and admin costs are also really significant pieces of that initial pie.
And it's not just about the money. You have got to go into this with your eyes wide open about the operational risks. Things like high employee turnover in hot tech markets, that's a real thing. And the ongoing complexity of cross-border compliance is no joke. These aren't deal breakers, but they are absolutely things you need a proactive plan for from day one. Now, what if you're looking at that upfront cost and all those operational risks, and you're thinking, that's a lot to take on right now? Well, there is a really smart alternative path. It's called the Build, Operate, Transfer model, or BOT for short.
And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. With a full captive center, it is all on you. You get total control, yes, but you also take on all the upfront cost, all the operational risk, and a huge long-term commitment. The BOT model, on the other hand, is like having an expert partner come in and do the heavy lifting for you. They build it, they run it, with little or no upfront cost to you, but, and this is key, you keep the option to take the keys and own the whole operation later on. It's a way to de-risk the entire venture.
Which brings us to the final critical question that you should take back to your team. When you look at your scale, your appetite for risk, and your long-term strategic goals, is now the time for you to build it all yourself? Or is it the time to partner up to get there faster and with a whole lot less risk?